The old Chevy's headlights cut through the thick fog. Barely. It clung to the road like a damp, cold blanket. The air was heavy, filled with the threat of unseen things. Michael shivered, gripping the steering wheel tighter. He just wanted to get home. He'd been driving for hours. A detour had taken him miles out of his way. Now, lost on this deserted highway, he felt a growing unease. Every shadow seemed to writhe, every rustle of leaves sent chills down his spine. The loneliness was almost unbearable. Then, through the swirling mist, he saw her, a lone figure standing by the side of the road. A girl. He slowed, peering through the windshield, his heart pounding in his chest. She was dressed in a long white dress, her dark hair falling down her back. She looked out of place, like a figure from an old photograph. Michael hesitated. Something about the situation felt off, but the night was cold and she was all alone. He couldn't leave her stranded. He pulled over, rolling down the window, just a crack. "Need a ride?" he called out, his voice barely a whisper in the thick silence. The girl turned, and Michael's breath caught in his throat. Her face, pale in the dim light, held a strange, almost ethereal beauty. Her eyes, large and dark, seemed to see right through him. She gave a small nod, her expression unreadable. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice soft as the fog itself. She moved with an unsettling grace, gliding towards the car. As she got in, a faint scent of rain and earth filled the car. He noticed her dress was old-fashioned, the fabric thin and almost translucent. She didn't speak, just stared straight ahead, her hands folded in her lap. The silence was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers. Michael tried to make conversation. "Where are you headed so late at night?" he asked, trying to sound casual. The girl didn't answer for a moment, her silence stretching on like an eternity. Then, without turning her head, she spoke. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but every word was clear, distinct. "Take me to Harmony Cemetery," she said. The name sent a shiver down Michael's spine. Harmony Cemetery was miles from the main road, a desolate place shrouded in unsettling local legends. He'd heard whispers of it, stories shared in hushed tones around campfires. It was said to be a place where the veil between worlds was thin, where spirits lingered. The car filled with an unnatural chill. Michael felt a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. "Harmony Cemetery?" he echoed, his voice strained. The girl finally turned, her dark eyes fixing on him. "Yes," she repeated, her voice calm, unwavering. "That's where I need to go." He wanted to refuse, to tell her he couldn't go there. But her gaze held him captive, filled with an unnerving intensity. He found himself agreeing, turning the car onto the deserted side road that led towards the cemetery. As he drove, the fog seemed to thicken, pressing against the car like icy fingers. The silence in the car was broken only by the girl's soft, shallow breathing. They drove in silence for what felt like hours, the only sound the crunch of gravel under the tires. The further they drove, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Michael felt a cold sweat prickling at his skin. He could feel the girl's gaze on him, but he didn't dare look at her, afraid of what he might see in her eyes. Finally, the headlights illuminated a weather-beaten sign, its paint peeling in the damp night air. Harmony Cemetery, it read, the letters crooked and faded. A wrought iron gate, rusted with age, marked the entrance. Michael stopped the car, his heart pounding in his ears. He could feel the girl's eyes on him, burning into him with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. She turned to face him, her eyes glowing with an eerie light in the darkness. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Before Michael could respond, she reached out and touched his hand. The touch sent a jolt of ice through his veins. A scream caught in his throat, frozen by terror. He looked down at his hand, then back at the girl. But she was gone, vanished. The passenger seat was empty, the scent of rain and earth gone. Only a faint chill lingered in the air, a ghostly reminder of the passenger he had just driven to her final resting place. Michael scrambled out of the car, his heart racing. He ran back to the road, not daring to look back at the cemetery gates. He didn't stop running until he reached the main road, his lungs burning, his body trembling with fear. As he looked back, the fog had cleared, revealing a star-filled sky. The cemetery was no longer visible, swallowed by the darkness. The memory of that night, of the girl in the white dress, stayed with him. He never picked up another hitchhiker, his fear a constant companion. He knew deep down that he had encountered something not of this world, and he would never forget the chilling truth. Some passengers never truly reach their final destination.